Hello and welcome to this B1 Usability Package e-learning session. My name is Rasmus Wolf Jensen and the topic of this session is add and edit menus, where we're looking into the advanced part of adding menus. So here we are in Business One, and from the previous session we made some custom reports down here with some entire new menu items with some images on. We made a single menu item in here with a lot of nested menu items. We created the sales order item and sales order service, and we created menu items up here as well. So this session will cover on how to actually do this. So in order to actually go to add and edit menus, you need to go to Administration, Add-ons, Usability Package, Module Configuration, add and edit menus. Or if you are a super user, you can simply right click the main menu and say add and edit menus, and you will get to the configuration. This session covers the add part of the add and edit menus. The later session will cover the edit, so we will stay on this tab page for now. So before we begin, we will need to understand how we actually get the existing menu IDs that are in Business One. And for that, we need to go to View, System Information, and when we now hover the mouse over the top menu, you will see that the different menu IDs in the lower left corner, for example, close here is 514, edit, and so on. And you don't need to go here in order to get the menu items from the main menu. They are all up here, and that is where you need to get them from. So if I wanted to find out what business partner is, well, I need to go here and see that in this case the header of business partner master items is 43535. So with that in mind, we need those in order to place them in the system. Let's now go through different columns of the add new menus in order to understand what they actually do. So first one is the menu UID, and the menu ID is your unique value for your new menu items, because just as existing menu items SAP provides have menu UIDs, you should as well give your items a menu ID. And it can pretty much be anything as long as it's unique. I have a tendency to use MX_1234567. You could also set your prefix for your company. So for example, I could perhaps do BOY. But anything goes as long as it only contains alphanumeric characters, underscores, and numbers. And don't make them numbers. Don't make a menu item like this 1000, because it might be that SAP have already have a menu item called 1000, and in that case it would ignore your setup. So just make sure they are unique in some way. Once given a menu UID, you also need to give a title. And it's just text, and it's what being presented to the user. So you can write it in any language, you can write it in any way you want. Also, a tip is that you can make a shortcut for it by putting in the ampersand. So for example, I set it here for the Y in my reports. And this will result in, when we look at the new report up here, that the Y have an underscore. So now I essentially could go to that menu item by going to Alt-M for modules, Alt-M, Alt-Y, and essentially I could give each of these reports a menu item again. So let's see, let's put it R and E, like this. So now I will be able to launch my report by pressing Alt M Y R. So you can make the shortcuts, but of course if you use the exact same shortcuts as SAP have used, it will take those instead. So please make them unique for your setup. So now we have our menu UID and our title, but we now need to tell the system where we actually should place that menu UID. Right now it's just floating out there and it doesn't know where it should be put. And for that we have the parent menu UID. And that is essentially which menu should you place this under. In my case, for my report, I place it under modules, and as you can see, modules had menu UID 43520, so that is the reason I put parent menu UID there. If I wanted my reports under tools instead, it should be 4864, so if I put in 4864, you will see that it will go away from here and instead be here. So you can essentially make it anywhere, and in order, because you always need to give a parent menu ID, and the most common places are either in the menu structure or up here, you can double click on the fields in order to get to the most common menu IDs. So if I wanted to back on my modules, I could get that menu UID directly by double clicking instead of needing to go on and hunt for it up in the top bar. So I will get my report back here. So this is just for placing a menu UID directly on the screen, but if you want other menu IDs under that menu, in this case MX1 here, which is my report, actually have two menu items under them. You will see that MX2 and MX3 actually have parent menu ID of MX1. And that is the way we build our tree. It will be a tree of nodes in it that essentially goes on forever if you want to. For example, the nested menu ID under the business partners was here. So this is MX7, and under MX7 is MX8, which was the more nested, and under MX8 was MX9, and under MX9 was MX10, and because no one is under MX10, that will be a menu item you can actually press and create some functionality for, while the others is just for opening and closing. Next up is the position. So again, we have the different menu IDs, and since this was under business partner master data, but there's a lot of menu items under business partner master data. So which of them should go first, which of them should go second, and so on. And that is the reason we have the position, and position is simply zero base, saying this is position 0, this is position 1, 2, 3, and if there are any gaps between, in this case I put in 999 just to make sure they should be at the end no matter what. So if I wanted this menu item to be up here instead, I should simply go in and put in my position of 0, and you will see that the menu item up here, if I put it in position 1 instead, it would be the 0, 1 menu item, and so on. A good plan is, if you want to have it in the end, just put 999, and in this case I put 999 for both of these, and then it's random which of those goes first. So if I wanted to make sure that this was always under there, I wanted to 998, so I'm sure that it would be above the other one. Next is the users and the user settings. In my scenario here, I haven't used it at all, but essentially it would make it possible to set up that only some users have certain menu UIDs. So, as an example, I could set up that this My Reports is only for the CEO and the managers. So what I could do is I could go in and say, right click here and say select users, and I could say that only Jason Butler, which is the manager, and John, which in my case is the CEO, should be able to see this menu item. So you can see it will comma separate these fields, and let's say that these two fields as well should also have the same setup. I'm right now including the users, so essentially I'm saying every user listed here should have these menu UIDs. So because I'm right now logged in as manager, I will see the report. But let's say it should not be shown to me because everyone but these two users should see these reports. I could go in and say exclude them instead, and in that way I will not see the report, but if I logged in as a user other than John or manager, I will actually see the report. I will put them back so we can work with them a little more here. So all depending if you want your users to be able to see them all or only certain users should be able to see them, you can set it up. And my report come back. Final visual setup we can do is we can create an image for our menu item. So right now you can see I have a My Reports here, and that My Reports have a little icon here I provided and placed right now in the C colon, and it's just a BMP file of 16 by 16 pixels. That is the placement of how big these images should be. It should of course not be on the C drive. This is only for my demo. It should be on a shared drive so everyone have the same image. If we press F1 in order to see some information about this system, there will be some information on how you actually should make these images. You can see that only JPEGs and BMPs are supported. They should be 16 by 16 pixels. And if you want transparency in the field, you should be able to set up a light green in order to set up the transparent color. I'll just show you what transparent color means because I have the original picture of this report icon, and you can see that that report icon actually is white with the image in it, but I have created the field. Let me just find paint.net here, and here you can see I have actually taken the original picture and colored it with the transparent color, which was this color here, and everything in that color will be ignored so we can see the image correctly. Images are only shown for the top level here or in the top menu by itself. So right now I can see the menu item with my image here and so on. But if I, for example, said I want this My Report under Business Partners, I could go in, change this to My Business Partners here, and update it. You will be able to see we have our My Reports here, but as you can see, we don't see the icon right now, and we only see the. And that is by definition by SAP. They never show icons in here, but the icon is actually still up here if you want to. So it can be shown, but it's a limitation by SAP that they are not shown in the main menu other than on the main menu items. So final thing we of course need to set is what the different menu items actually do. It of course doesn't make sense to just create menu items like the ones I've created here, that actually doesn't do anything when I press them. So for that reason, I can go in and set what the menu items should do under the function. And for that we use universal functions, where I can create a bunch of different functions, all depending on what I actually want. In this case, let's just say hello SAP, in order to see something happen, because this session will now cover universal function. We have separate sessions on the universal function by itself. So let's make a test message, and now I have hooked up this menu item to this universal function. So if I save this, we will see now that if I press this, it will launch our universal function. In this case it was just a message, but it could be any custom report, any external program, scripted events in the forms of sales orders and items. Like this, for example, here I have my item, which was a way of opening up the existing sales order, switching to item mode, and focus back on the code field. It doesn't, of course, make sense to make a function for one of these menu items like this that just opens up. So if I actually went in and used my test message directly on this menu item, you would see that it wouldn't really make sense, because if I press it now, nothing happened. It simply ignores the ones that are actually just placeholders for other menu items. Before we end, let me give you a few tips. Well, I already showed you the tip of double clicking on the menu UID in order to get some of the most common. In the same way, you can double click on image part in order to choose your image if you don't know the exact part yourself. And you can also do the same for users. Instead of right clicking, you can double click in order to get to the select users. So they are all documented down here, so you can remember. Also, if you click one of these, you can see, okay, you might not know that this was actually business partners, but if I press it, you can see it down here that it actually tells us that. Final thing before we end the session is you have the option to import and export these setups. If you want to have them in another database, you can simply export it and import it into another one. This concludes this session. For training material, please go to service.boyum-it.com/education, or if you want a free demo of the product, go to license.boyum-it.com/b1up. If you want to contact us, you can do it either by our sales email or our support email. Thank you for attending.